Hello, race fans. This is Alex Gray. You're listening to The Grueling Truth, where legends speak, here with Steve Risley. Today we're going to sit down and talk about the Gander RV Duels that took place, the two qualifier races, to set the field for the 61st Daytona 500 this coming Sunday. All righty. So, Steve, give us your thoughts. Give us your thoughts.
It just is very dynamically interesting to watch both these races happen. I think that there's a lot of things that happen here. One, and I'm a Chevy guy. I'm a Chase Elliott fan. So I'm looking at it and I'm not seeing the Fords struggling like the Chevy struggled at the beginning of last year. I'm seeing them be very. I mean, I look at the first one: Harvick Ford, Stenhouse Ford, Menard Ford, Toyota. Sixth place was the first Chevrolet we got. And then I go to Class 2, and I'm seeing Ford, Toyota, and finally Kurt Busch wins with a Chevy and finishes fifth, Ford, and then you got two Chevys with McMurray and Elliott. So my first thoughts are, I don't like the feeling that they're going to learn from the mistakes they made last year with Chevrolet and the Camaro, and they're going to bump and give the Ford an advantage. Let's just deal with that first. What's your thoughts on that? And I assume Bobby Sheridan, with the Sheridan Report. Did you just join us, Bobby?
Hey, Steve. Yes, I'm on air. How you doing, buddy?
All right. Can you talk NASCAR?
Not at all like you guys can, but I can lend some sports betting advice on things that I've looked up.
Well, hang in there, because we're gonna bring you in on this, because a lot of what's going on here is about playing the odds. And so kick in whenever you want and tell us about, when we talk about strategy, give us the odds on what we're saying. Would you do that, please? And then we'll give you time at the end just to give us what your betting predictions are now that you've got the field set and everything like that. Okay?
Right. Sounds good,
So
Steve.
kick in and talk. You're not an idiot. You know about NASCAR. You know about racing. You're a sports book, so you know it. So,
yeah,
Alex, what's your thoughts on the Ford thing and how much aero advantage they had? Is it aero advantage, or is it teamwork? What's going on with the Fords?
Well, definitely something we learned tonight is that the Fords are continuing their speed on super speedways from last year. Kevin Harvick winning Duel 1, Joey Logano winning Duel 2. Fords dominated both races. I've noticed that the Fords and the Toyotas seem to really hook up really well. Even in one case, Parker Kligerman, one of the drivers who got in the 500, who needed to get in, he got help from Kyle Busch, who ended up falling back with a little bit of TRD power, as Kligerman put it. So I found that a little interesting. The Fords pitting together, the Toyotas pitting together, and the Chevys obviously, and of course Duel 2. Well, I'll get to that later. But yeah, one thing we've learned is that Fords are just completely fast, and I'm pretty confident that Ford's going to win on Sunday.
Are they fast? Because, and again, Daytona and Talladega are unique. And I know, Bobby, when you're a sports book, you're trying to bet, predict these things. This is a crapshoot for you guys, I'm sure. It's probably something you don't even like to do if you're going to predict, because it's so dependent on the big wreck happening. We know it's going to happen. And it's so more dependent. Bobby, is this a situation where, for the betting point of view, it's more dependent on equipment than it is talent? Is that fair to say?
That might be fair to say. I think from a betting point of view, it's kind of like betting the Kentucky Derby, or a big horse race. There is a lot of luck involved, no doubt, and you're looking for a long shot. You're looking for your $10 or your $100 or whatever to have a nice return, because, I mean, let's face it, the favorite in this race is 8-1. So this thing, that tells you right there, it's wide open. But within a wide open venue, we have to have something we're basing our pick on. And you said to lend a hand. Well, what you guys are talking about, the Fords, they've won 5 of the last 9 Daytonas, and they've won the last 7 Talladegas. So, I mean, they're dominating on this restrictor plate stuff. So, you know, if you're going to use some logic, you guys are on the right track. You got to go with the Ford. And, you know, and then the other thing that I came up with was Denny Hamlin. When the last 8 Daytona 500s, he has started on the front row of 5 of the last 8 restarts.
He's never won one though. He's never won a Daytona 500 though. Has he
never
not?
won, but he's right there.
Yeah.
He's right there every year, and he does really well on the side by side drafting. They call it drafting, right? Side by side. He and Suarez are really getting a lot of articles. I'm reading a lot of kudos for their ability to race side by side, and I think Hamlin knows what he's doing. So I would say a Ford or Hamlin. That's where I'm leaning. Pick your Ford and then put Hamlin with it.
See, and Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's horse bucky because this thing is so dependent on the last 3 laps of this race, and where you go. To me, it's more. I think Bobby's trying to allude to that a little bit, but it seems to be the Ford contingent is working together better than anybody else right now. And in 2 years before that, the Toyota group was working better than anybody else, and Chevy is just not organized in working together as a group. We saw Chase 2 or Duel 2. I think the strongest car out there was the 9 car. I mean, that car could drop out of line and pass cars, but the minute he got out of the draft, he had that horsepower, but he didn't have the draft. But if he has anybody to go with him, he would suck you behind him or he would push you in front of him. That car was strong. Is it just a case of working together as a team? And then, you know, Bobby, does that figure into the group of, like, you got to look at the whole package? Or, yeah. Alex, what's going on here?
Let me jump in real quick because I have a perfect lead-in with this. I read an article where Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was talking about needing to be aggressive to win this, and he was saying that the plate racing is all about aggressiveness now and making the right moves, and your spotter giving you that information of when to move down. So the teamwork between the spotter and the driver is even more crucial in this race. I
tweet with Eddie DeHaan, who is Chase Elliott's spotter. I mean, we don't send each other Christmas cards. I don't know the man. I mean, you know, but he's following me and I follow him, and you know, he likes what I say, and he tweets back and he follows us a little bit to some degree, and I really enjoy his conversation. But I just don't see Chevy organized enough, Alex, that they're going to be formidable enough in this race to put a package together to work together. And I don't think I looked at Elliott. Elliott had the strongest car of any of the 2 races I saw. He could drop down and move forward by himself, where in none of the 2 races, nobody else could do that. Am I right or wrong there, Alex?
Yeah, I felt like he definitely had the speed, and he really wanted to make moves. And I remember at one point, the 40 and the 1, McMurray and Busch, they all pretty much bunched up at one point. Elliott swooped out, and then Kurt Busch had a lot of momentum, and he just went by the 9. And I'm just
they bumped him out. They basically bumped him out of the way. I mean, Busch came up and bumped him out of the way. Because the 40 car was in front. I know the sequence you're talking about. Chase was tagging the 40 car, and the one he had already dropped down and single-handedly past the 1 car, which is Busch, and then he jumped back up in line, and then Busch seemed to bump him and make him drop down, so not to cause a wreck. He dropped down because they teamed up, and then, you know, Elliott again, who had the stronger car, he just didn't have the help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, you make some really good points there. And as a side note, drivers that are in from Duel 1, Tyler Reddick was already in due to his qualifying time. Parker Kligerman of the Gaunt brothers finished 12th. He gets the transfer spot. And the driver that will not be in the Daytona 500 is Ryan Truex. And then from Duel 2, Brendan Gaughan is in, and so is Casey Mears, and Joey Gase will be going home for MBM Motorsports.
Okay. Steve, another Chevy, if you don't like Fords and you're going to try to beat them, Hamlin would, I'm telling you.
Well, it's something you don't like Fords.
But if you want to try to beat a Ford, is what I'm saying. I think Kurt Busch might be a good selection in his Chevy. He finished second last week in the Clash, and I have a feeling, I just think he could come up with a good race for Chevy,
All right, so
what do you guys think of Kurt Busch?
Yeah, great driver. I mean, so then is this a case, Alex, of they're kind of punking Hendrick a little bit here?
I mean,
because they didn't work with Elliott. I mean, you had the 40 car, the 9 car, and the 1 car all together, and they did not work together. And yet you got all the Ford cars up front from various teams, from Penske, from Stewart-Haas Racing, from Stenhouse drives for what? He drives for Roush Fenway. They were working together, but you don't see the Chevy teams working together because they should have all freight trained up because they had strong cars.
Mm-hmm.
But they separated themselves and they pushed the strongest car, which is the 9 car, out and said, "Nah, we're not going to do that." So is this a kind of a punk job on Hendrick a little bit now right now?
Yeah, and the other thing is when you have Byron and Bowman on the front row, pretty much late in the Duel 1, Byron just kind of popped out of line, dropped back. Of course, obviously he doesn't want to wreck the car and move to the back.
Why do they want to do it? It's an impound race. Yeah, they didn't want to wreck the car.
Bowman was probably the same deal. And obviously we really didn't get much from Johnson. Elliott did have a fast car, in my opinion. So, yeah, when you post your top 4 cars in qualifying, in top 5, actually, when you throw in Hemrick, I think, how can you translate that kind of speed into the race and stay out in front?
Well, but we talked about this, I think, on our last show, that there are teams that, like Hendrick does, they set their cars up for qualifying, where Stewart-Haas Racing sets their cars up for racing.
Yeah.
And then here you go, you see Harvick now, when you get into race mode, who didn't qualify that well, and all of a sudden now he's winning a duel, and, he's got a strong race car now. And so now you've got to get into the race, and all the Hendrick cars are going to have to come in and monkey around with their adjustments, their tire strategy, stagger, everything that goes into it. They chose to say, we're going to sit 2 cars on the pole, but we're not going to worry about it until we make the first pit stop in the race. But this is a unique race, this in Talladega, where you start probably doesn't matter as much as it does like at Richmond, at Martinsville or Bristol or Kentucky or Kansas or Chicago. Starting position matters more in the mile and a half than it does in these super speedway tracks. Mm-hmm. So, it's just interesting to see. So let's talk a little bit about the enigma in the sport right now, Alex. Is it Jimmy Johnson? I mean, is this guy just washed up?
I hate to be that kind of mean about Johnson, but I am concerned for him, concerned the fact that now he's had 2 incidents that have been kind of similar, the incident with Menard at the Clash, and now tonight, Thursday night, with Kyle Busch. When I saw the incident, I went, oh, geez. I was like, here we go again. Here comes I was like, boy, we're going to be talking about Johnson tonight. But I don't know. I do believe he's at the end of his career. I am predicting now he will retire at the end of 2020 because that's when his contract ends. Hate to be mean.
In the booth. In the booth with Earnhardt and Gordon.
Well, I read up earlier today that on Saturday, the Xfinity race, he's actually going to be in the booth. So I think Jimmy would make a good announcer. I'm looking forward to that. Obviously,
he's very corporate. Yeah, he's very corporate. I mean, that's kind of been his MO for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, Bobby, what are the odds on Johnson? I mean, what's the better odds on Johnson, wrecking or winning?
Well, he's 20-1 to win, so he's probably better odds to wreck.
To wreck?
Yeah, he's 20-1, and the favorites are co-8-1. You got Brad Keselowski at 8-1 and Joey Logano at 8-1, and then my non-Ford choice, Denny Hamlin, is third pick to win. He's 10-1, and then we have a whole slew of 12-1 guys. Let me read those for you. I just got to find them here 1 second. You got Eric Almirola at 12-1, Chase Elliott at 12-1, Bowyer at 12-1, Kevin Harvick, tonight's winner, at 12-1, and Ryan Blaney at 12-1. So those are your top dogs, and then you got your long shots, and which range from 20-1 all the way up to 50-1, and I like.
Well, how does
at 35? I'm going to release a driver that's got a big shot that none of us has said anything about yet. I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
All right. How does Keselowski get to be the favorite? I mean, he is the worst Ford in the field in the duels. I mean, he finished 20th in Cam Duel 1. Worst performing Ford. How does he get to be the favorite in the Daytona 500?
Well, he leads all active drivers with 6 plate wins, and Logano has 4.
Okay.
So right. I think just based on that.
And keep in mind, Keselowski had 2 penalties in that race too. I think he crossed over too many pit stalls, and then he was caught speeding, had to come back in. So just a lot of errors he made on his part. But yeah, Keselowski very good on the restrictor plate tracks. Logano definitely a favorite. In terms of picks to win, who do you guys have winning the Daytona 500 on Sunday?
Well, if you had to pin me down to one racer for the little bit of value at 10-1, I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin. That's if you had to just say my one pick. But I think, you could choose a Ford and be probably as good a chance as anything because of their dominance. And then I always like to bet a real long shot, and I'll go ahead and say it now. I like my dad. See, my dad is a big race guy, and every week I'm going to give you his pick. And his pick is Paul Menard this week. And you can get him at 35-1. So, you put a couple bucks at 10-1, a couple at 35-1. You could throw in a couple drivers. Don't need to do just one. But if you pin me down to one, I'm going to take Hamlin.
Yeah, Menard has looked fast all throughout Speed Weeks. I definitely have him.
It's a Penske prepared car, isn't it?
Yes, they have an alliance with Penske.
Yeah, it's a Penske. It's Wood Brothers, but it's a Penske prepared car.
And it is a Ford, so.
It's a Ford,
that's not a bad selection. That's not a bad selection right there. And
I'm just personally pissed off that Ford is getting such an arrow pass by this early into when I saw what Camaro struggled with, what Chevy struggled with last year. I think they learned their lesson from Chevy about doing that and taking a manufacturer totally out of the loop until Elliott started winning races late in the year. And first race you won was on a road course where aero probably means the least of any on any track is aero. You got to be able to turn right, which is a big thing. And most of those guys don't know how to turn right; they only turn left. And then they kind of started giving Chevy some slack, and I'm seeing Ford all of a sudden with a new package, a new aero package, and a new body, and dominating all over again. I'm not happy about that, but that's because I'm a Chase Elliott fan. So we go from there.
Ryan Blaney, Steve, was asked. I saw an article. He was asked what is it about the Fords that are so good, and his answer was fast race cars. He said the Roush Yates engines have always been great here, and then Then they've got Keselowski and Joey as two of the best plate racers now, and they all work together and have each other's back. So, you know, at the end of the race, then they can go for it, you know. And I just think for whatever they're doing, you guys know better than me, but for whatever they're doing,
not necessarily.
They got it going on. I don't know.
Yeah, and Bobby and Alex, to your question, who do you think is going to win? Here's what I think in watching what happened. And I watched drivers tonight run in the duels. I think somebody that's going to win this race, and I can't pin it down because you just don't know where you're going to be when the wreck happens. And with 40 cars on it, it's going to happen. So it's wherever you are, how your pit strategy. It's almost like your crew chiefs control this more than the driver does, because the crew chief says when you pit, when you come in, how many tires do you take, how much time do you spend in the pits, you know, that stuff. But I think it's going to be a driver who's less aggressive. And, you know, and I watched, and I use the example that I watched Chase Elliott, because obviously I love the 9 car. He was aggressive tonight. I mean, he tried to make crap happen, you know, and he could get nobody to work with him. And every time he was aggressive, trying to drop low in the bottom line wouldn't form up on this race. It'll form up with 40 cars. It will not form up with 20 cars because they'll stay single file because there's just not enough cars to form. When you get 40 cars in, that bottom line is going to form.
Yeah.
It's going to come into play. It's going to come into play big time. So this is really not indicative, but I see like a Chase Elliott being very aggressive and not being passive, and he's probably going to get himself in a situation that's not going to be advantageous to him. Not maybe by his own fault, but I think the guy who's just real passive, sits back and relaxes and just says, you know, I'm going to ride along here and realize this race doesn't start until there's 5 to go or 3 to go and something like that. Then I'll start going because I've eliminated probably half the field by that point in time and taken most of the great competitors out because of the big one.
Oh, yeah, there will be.
But then you're just going to sit back. So to handicap this race has just got to be, Bobby, just incredibly hard to do.
Well, what you were describing, is that how McMurray won his race in 2010? Did he sit back and then time it right?
That's how everybody wins Daytona. I mean, you look at all the guys that have won Daytona, very few Pete drivers have won that race from start to finish. I mean, they kind of back into that win more than they earn that win.
All right, but let
Alex,
me ask
am
you guys
I right
this.
or wrong?
Yeah, you make good points. I mean, yeah, you look at last year when Amarola had the lead on the final lap, and Austin Dillon had that big push from Bubba Wallace, and, you know, Amarola went up to block and ended up getting turned, in which the guys on Fox quoted that Eric Amarola won the Daytona 499 because he didn't get back around to the checkered flag in first. But, yeah, I mean, it really depends where you are within those final few laps. And that's when people are going to be jostling for position. People are going to be going for the win, you know. And, yeah, it's going to be interesting because, you know, there will be wrecks. There's probably going to be like 15, 20 cars left in the race at the end. So I'm looking forward to seeing who's there, what happens. If I'm picking
Alex,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. If you're picking one.
Go ahead, Bobby. Go ahead.
Well, my question for Alex was, or for you, Steve, but I thought maybe Alex would be a good one to answer this. That's what I always thought.
Yeah, because Steve I'm just color, right? I'm just color commentator, so that's why Alex is going to answer this question.
No, because I wanted to get. Come on, Steve.
That's a joke.
No, because my thought process was always what Steve had said: patience, sit back, and time it right, and stay away from all the trouble. But then, Alex, why do I read this where Ricky Stenhouse says, plate racing is all about aggressiveness now and making the right moves, and your spotter giving you what information of when to move down. So, you know, they talked about Paul Menard leading. He led 51 of the 59 laps in the Clash, and
right.
He blocked and caused that 14 of the 20 cars to pile up in that race. So maybe you do want to be towards the front now. Maybe it's changing landscape there. Is that right or wrong?
I think it is changing landscapes, especially with the stages now. And, you're battling for points now at the end of every stage. You get those playoff points and those bonus points. Being
Very
aggressive.
good. Yeah.
Being aggressive, I definitely – and actually in the first duel, one driver I saw similar to Chase Elliott I thought was Daniel Suarez. He looked like at moments he was trying to do the same exact thing Chase was trying to do. And, again, nobody went with him. But, yeah, I think in the 500, when you got 40 cars out there, I think it's going to be different.
When they see a car as strong as Chase Elliott or Daniel Suarez, and I agree, he was strong too in the first race.
Oh, yeah.
When there's 40 cars out there and they see a car that strong and he wants to go to the bottom, there's going to be people that want to go with him. There might not be in a 20-car race. They're going to sit back and stay in line and say, I'm just going to keep my – and again, you're talking about now. You're talking about I don't want to wreck my car because it's an impound race. I don't want to trash my car. I don't have to go to backup. I don't want an unproven car. I don't have to let my crew try to rebuild my car. So the whole mentality in these races is completely different than what you're going to get on Sunday, in my opinion. You're going to see people be more aggressive. But, Bobby, in terms of being aggressive, I think the aggressiveness comes where you either want to be dead-ass last or you want to – because you can brake to avoid the wreck. If you're back in the back, you say, okay, I'll sit back here and let 22 of the 40 cars crash themselves. Then I'll waltz through the crap, and I'll be now in 12th spot before I know what hit me without having a great car. Or you want to be aggressive like Stenhouse says because you want to keep your ass out in front and not be involved in the big wreck that's going to happen because there's only one car or two cars or wherever you are, the top 3 or 4, that can hurt you. Other than that, you're back there. Now, when you get down to the last 4 or 5 laps, like Amarola last year or, Menard in the Duel, you get down there and all hell breaks loose on the last 3 laps on this racetrack. Am I right, Alex?
Yeah.
You forget about your friends real quick.
Yeah. I mean, in those final laps, it's every man, woman for themselves.
Yeah. So, Alex, anything else we need to say? I mean, we've got the lineup set. I think no surprises. I don't think is it true when I say, Alex, that I don't think that the lineup where people start really matters in this race as much as it does in mile and a half or short tracks, or it just really doesn't matter where you start here, does it?
It doesn't really. At Daytona and Talladega, it doesn't matter where you start; it's where you finish. You could be in.
Is pitch selection that important in it? Because they were talking about Elliott having the first stall, and they were talking on TV about that being a disadvantage to him because he couldn't get enough speed up quick enough to, because those tracks, the restrictor plates are so slow to get the cars up to speed. It takes a lap to get them up to speed. The other cars are already gaining momentum and speed coming down pit lane, where he in the first stall, he's starting out almost at a dead stop, and it takes his car longer to wind up.
Yeah.
Than it does somebody in the 21st stall, because he's got his engine and his winding up a little bit, and he hits accelerator. He's 50% ahead of where Elliott is when he takes out of the first stall. So is pit selection even that important in this race?
In terms of that, I think pit selection is important. I never really thought of it that way, but once again, at Daytona and Talladega, you can go from 2nd to 30th within one lap, especially if you get caught. Or you can go from 29th to 5th in one lap. So I mean, that's just how it works with the super speedway track. So yeah, it's just more of where you are at the right time and making sure that you can make that right move. And when is the right move? 1 to go, 2 to go. You don't want to make it too soon.
So before we go to Bobby and let him handicap this race, and I want to hear his handicap on this race. I don't know if handicap's the right word to use, Bobby. To put odds on this race. I forgot the question I was going to ask now. Never mind. Let's go to handicapping because the question will come back to me in a minute. How do you handicap this race?
Well, we've kind of alluded to everything. You know, my philosophy is to not, one thing we're not talking about in terms of handicapping is the matchups. I don't think there's value in the matchups in this race because they're, those are usually you lay 110 on either side, meaning you bet 110 to win 100, so you get 210 back. Those kind of odds, one-on-one versus another driver, I don't like in this race because of the volatility of the race. So I think your best shot would be to bet it like a horse race, take a price, whoever you bet's going to be a decent price, and have a couple stabs at it and enjoy the race. With that being said, I'm going to take Hamlin at 10-1, and I'm going to put a couple bucks on the 35-1 shot Menard, and that's probably the two that I'm going to bet on. And I think Ryan Blaney has a shot in this race too at 12-1. He led. We didn't talk about Blaney, but he led many of the laps last year. In the race, he led 118 laps last year. So we know what his strategy is going to be, and he's got the fast forward. So those are the three guys I'm looking at. They're all pretty good numbers, and I'm not going to do anything with matchups. I'm not going to recommend anything with matchups just because that's not sound betting for this race. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I want to do a running tally of us three just on air and for the whole season. We're going to do a weekly show, and we'll each put out a pick, and then at the end we can see who had the most wins. And I'm going to go Hamlin, and so I wanted your guys' picks before we leave. Your official one driver pick to win it.
Alrighty, Steve, you want to go first, or?
Yeah, I'll go. No problem. I'm going to go with Chase Elliott because I think he's got the strongest car. I think people are going to hook up with him when there's 40 cars on the track. I think the 9 car is strong. I think he's poised and he's seasoned enough now that he knows how to run these restrictor plate races. Hendrick builds great restrictor plate racing. I mean, Gordon was great at restrictor plate. Johnson in his heyday was strong at restrictor plate. Alan Gustafson is Pit Creek guy is strong. I'm going to go with Elliott. I think I just saw it tonight. That car looked dominant to me. He just couldn't get anybody to work with him. So I'm going to go with the 9 car. If he can stay out of trouble.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, Alex, who do you got?
All right, so this driver to me, had the comeback year of his racing career when he joined Stewart-Haas last year. And I personally believe he will seek redemption, and I'm going to go ahead and call it now. Eric Almirola wins the Daytona 500.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
So
okay.
It's Daytona,
right.
So I'm going with something different here.
That's a great choice, and I think I went over his odds. He's 12-1. You can get 12-1 on him, Alex, on Sunday.
Oh yeah.
I don't think Almirola is aggressive enough to win this race. I think in Sunday you got to be aggressive, and Bobby kind of alluded to that. I think he didn't want to be that aggressive tonight because he didn't want to wreck a car. But I think when it comes down to it, you got to have a driver on Sunday who's going to really who I think is going to win the race is Harvick. I just think I think he's going to win the race, but I'm going to bet with my heart and go with Elliott just because I want Chase to win the race. But really,
but you want Chase to win every week, though, right? I mean, I
want Chase to win every week, right?
But I don't want
Chase never going to change. But I really think going to win the race is going to be Harvick. I think he's a Sly Fox. I think he's a David Pearson of his time. He knows how to run these things, keep his ass out of trouble. He's got great equipment, and I think really, truly, in the end, you're going to see the 4 car out in front at the end, and you're going to see the 22 car right alongside of him. Because say what you don't want about Logano, that guy knows how to drive restrictor plate racing. You saw him make moves. He made a very aggressive move tonight to jump out in front, and it was a last-minute move that he was kind of flirting around back there, quietly sitting, like he said, staying out of trouble and not doing anything. And then all of a sudden, with 3 or 4 laps to go, he dives low, gets somebody to go with him, give him a push, and he blows by everybody. And then you see the 22. And Logano, defending champion, he's no fluke of a driver. he's not well liked.
No doubt.
For whatever reason, because he came, from wealthy background, and people thought he got in too early in the sport and got too many breaks early. But Logano is, again, he's shrewd. But if I was going to bet money, I'd bet it on Harvick. But I'm going to root for Elliott. So there you go.
All right, Steve. Very good. That sounds good, guys. I'm going to enjoy doing this, and I've always kind of done NASCAR just as a very tiny, small thing, and it still is in my overall picture. But because I'm coming on the show, I'm going to be a lot more prepared than I normally am to talk NASCAR, and I'm going to really enjoy it. It's a sport that my dad loves. It's near and dear to his heart, and so I'm excited. Thank you, Steve, for asking me to come on and be a sports betting part of it. I appreciate that.
You're going to end up being, you're going to end up being an intellectual part of it too. I mean, you'll pick the sport up quickly. It's not that complicated. You turn left.
I'm learning a lot. Yeah.
You turn left and go fast. You turn left and go fast. It's kind of what it's all about.
Fails. And when all else fails, kick ass like Carl Yarborough did 40 years ago.
Yeah. Rubbing is racing. Get him out of your way.
Yep. And we'll have
so, Alex, are we going to do a post-race show Sunday night?
Yes, we will. And mind if I cover a couple things that came out today?
Please do. Oh, yes, please do. NASCAR news. Go for it.
Okay, so source is from Adam Stern on Twitter. He said one announcement is Extreme Concepts, who is a major sponsor to Jeffrey Earnhardt, moving over to Joe Gibbs. Extreme Concepts announces that they are forming a new NASCAR team, which will have a technical alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing and debut the number 81 Toyota this year with Jeffrey Earnhardt for 2 Cup races and 5 Xfinity races, which already adds on to the 9 that he has planned with Gibbs. The team name will be Extreme Concepts Racing. So Jeffrey Earnhardt getting a lot of big opportunities here, and I'm sure a lot of Junior fans and a lot of Earnhardt fans in general are probably excited about that. So I'm looking forward.
Let me ask you about that. Is that because of the name or his talent?
I would say more so the name, and I think honestly, I'm calling it the Ryan Preece method. Ryan Preece was picked up by Gibbs a couple years ago. He ran a few races in the 18. He won a couple races. He was pretty impressive, and now he's in a Cup car. And now I think the same thing is happening here with Jeffrey. Jeffrey has driven for a lot of lower budget race teams, teams who don't have as much money or equipment like Hendrick and Gibbs and Ganassi and these other teams. So this is Jeffrey's big break. This is his make or break season, getting picked up by Joe Gibbs like this. This is huge. This is big for him, and we'll see if he can capitalize on that.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, this is not a pre-qualified team, right? So they're going to have to race their way into things. Yeah,
and but they will have Joe Gibbs equipment, so maybe this is
benefits them there. Yeah,
this is the Furniture Road 2.0.
Yeah. What else you got? Anything?
Let's see. Bubba Wallace. Some people have asked about why the McDonald's logo was on his fire suit, since McDonald's is also with Chip Ganassi. He has a new relationship with the company that runs McDonald's. This includes primary sponsorship on the 43 at Atlanta, and in addition to that new deal with Bubba Wallace, it is also in addition to, of course, their, quote, long-standing continuing deal with Chip Ganassi Racing, according to Adam Stern. So it's nice to see him and that 43 team gain a big sponsor like McDonald's.
Well, that's the Petty team, isn't it?
Yep, that's Richard Petty.
So Petty's kind of dumping. Well, STP, they haven't been a primary sponsor of them for a long time, have they not?
STP's still with them, yeah.
But you're just kind of more in a decorative fashion. I mean,
yeah, they sponsor Bubba for a few races, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, they paint the car the orange and blue, Petty blue and the orange, and stick the stickers on it. But I don't see them as being anybody that's really putting a lot of effort behind it anymore. But Bubba Wallace, you bring it up, is a driver that that you would love to see get with a team that can provide him with equipment that's equal to his talent. I don't think he's there. I think he's a talented driver in less talented equipment. Am I right?
Yeah, Petty really doesn't have the kind of equipment as other teams do. I do think Darrell Wallace Jr. pushes that equipment to the best of his ability. He's a very talented driver. Came up with Joe Gibbs in the Truck Series. He was phenomenal. He even pushed it at Roush, and it's a shame he got kicked from the team. Well, he got released because the team didn't have any sponsorship money after a certain race, which is a shame because Bubba was really good in 2017 before that team shut down. So, of course, Amarola got hurt at Kansas, and he was able to get a big break in the Cup Series, and now he's driving for the team full time. So, I think Bubba will potentially go somewhere else maybe in a year or two. Obviously maybe take some sponsors with him because he's a talented driver. I think he can win races, and who knows, maybe even a championship someday.
I would agree entirely. And I was kind of surprised, kind of in the same time fashion. And again, this is a different show that we'll do down the road throughout the season. Is you saw almost Danica Patrick absolved from NASCAR. Then you saw Bubba Wallace dropped. And, NASCAR keeps claiming this thing about wanting diversity in their sport. And you wonder why, when you look at the drivers that Hendrick picked up, why they wouldn't pick up. Because right about the time he was being let go, he was available to go to Hendrick. And, and you would have almost thought NASCAR would have said, this would be a good move for a team of your caliber to pick up a Bubba Wallace and do good for NASCAR and give this kid a chance to win in the big picture. I was kind of surprised that didn't happen. And they went with Byron Scott and the 88 car. Who's driving the 88 car again? I can't think of his name real quick. Alex Bowman. And, I thought Bubba Wallace would have been a great fit for the Hendrick team too. And then, to push Danica out was also, I know she wasn't capable of winning races. She wasn't that good. I mean,
the issue too is,
but she was a cash cow to Stewart-Haas.
Plus, it's such a difficult transition to go from open wheel to stock car, especially in this day and age. Not everybody's like Tony Stewart.
She made the right move. She just went and found Aaron Rodgers and said, "I'll suck up your money." Just be rich that way and not have to make my own. Although she's done well. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. Bobby, so the favorite is, you got Hamlin. The favorite is who?
Well, the favorite is Kozlowski and Logano. They're co-favorites at 8-1. I've got Hamlin at 10-1. Your official pick is Harvick.
My official pick is Harvick. Yeah, I think he's just going to be.
Your official pick is Harvick.
Be there at the end. What's the odds on Harvick?
Excuse me, I had a cough. Let me pull that back up. I had started looking at some ATP stuff while you guys were talking.
Harvick was just sneaky quiet all day.
Yeah, 12-1 was Almirola. That's Alex's pick. And your pick, Harvick, I got it right here, is going to be, where is he? Harvick. Kevin Harvick, right? 12-1. He's the same. 12-1. So Almirola and Harvick are 12. Yeah.
Put your money on Harvick. He's going to win this thing. Watch it.
All right, guys. I'm coughing. I got to go.
All right.
All right. Take it easy.
Sounds good,
all
guys.
Right. Bobby, Alex, you want to wrap it up for us?
Yep. Before I head off, just want to let you guys know that I interviewed a couple NASCAR Xfinity drivers, Vinny Miller and Matt Mills. That'll be popping up soon on the Grilling Truth website.
Yeah, we're going to post those. Yeah, I talked to Mike today. We're going to get those posted as quick as possible. If you want to make those part of our show, we can go ahead and edit those into whatever show we want to do. But yeah, that's what we need to do, is get drivers on board and let us know what they think, because that's real world experience.
Definitely. All right, and besides that, we'll wrap up the show here. NASCAR Gander Outdoor Truck Series race on Friday night. The Xfinity Series race on Saturday, and Sunday at 2:30. The 61st running of the Daytona 500. Yep.
You know, it's interesting. Did I read today that Elliott is actually going to drive for Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s team in the Xfinity race? He's going to run. What car is he going to run?
He will be in the number 8, which Junior brought back.
The 8 car? Yeah. So he's going to actually run, and that's unusual because you haven't seen Elliott run a lot of Xfinity races since he left Xfinity and went to the the Cup Series. You haven't seen him run a lot, so
yeah, he won
interesting.
Yeah, he won that race back in 2016, driving the 88 for Dale Jr. So
was he in Cup in 2016, or was he still in Xfinity in 2016?
He moved to Cup. That's when he replaced.
He was in Cup. Okay, so yeah, but you haven't seen him. You don't see him run many Xfinity races. So,
yeah, not really.
But that'll be a good fit. That'll be fun.
Mhm.
So there we go. Some good reason to watch on Saturday too.
Yeah, we got a lot of fun, exciting racing coming up this weekend. You don't want to miss it on Fox Sports 1. This is Alex Gray here with Steve Risley. Here on The Growing Truth, where legends speak. This is the NASCAR show, and we're signing off.